Yeah, I think some of the pitfalls,
Yeah.
right, of being a visionary is,
Well, first of all, would you say you're a visionary leader?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And how do you know? What does that mean?
I generally like mentally am living in the future.
Yeah, that's
Like I
yeah.
like so one of the things I mentioned last night is it's so easy. What happens is you live maybe a year out, maybe 5 years out. I'm generally in the year to 5 year out kind of mentality, and so maybe I'm out there, and then I love what I see. Like I'm like, this is awesome, and then I come back to today, and I'm not seeing what I saw in my mind. So I actually have one of my leaders. He's going through this right now. He's got this vision for our company, and it's like world class hospitality. That's what we're going to offer our team. And so he's seeing like things that we haven't even tried to work on yet. Mm-hmm. We haven't communicated to our team, and he's getting so frustrated. And I'm like, oh, okay. So you have an expectation in your head that you haven't talked about, you haven't communicated, you haven't done anything about, and it's frustrating you. I'm like, do you realize it's irrational?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we've not created a plan for this wonderful vision, and we haven't even started launching it, but you want it to be today.
Yeah. He's already excited because he's already lived it. He's pre-living this in the future.
Yeah, he's in the future.
He
He's
sees
living it.
It's real.
And it's so tangible
Yeah.
that when he comes back to reality or present day, he's like frustrated, disappointed. And so that's one of the biggest pitfalls is like and so I'm working him through it right now where I'm saying, okay, you're a year out in your mind. The goal isn't that January 1st, we are that new business that you've created in your head. The goal is by Q4 of next year that we're that new business. Mm-hmm. But we have to reverse engineer and go, if that's where we are at Q4, then what does Q3 look like? What do we have to accomplish in Q3 in order to get there in Q4? And if we're there at Q3, if this is where we are in Q3, how did we get there?
Right.
All right, what did we do in Q2? And if that's what we did in Q2, then what is required in Q1? And he goes, oh, and then he starts doing this. He goes, we have to spend the next 3 months changing people's mindsets. And I'm like, yeah. Mm-hmm. I was like, so what are we going to do to change mindsets? And I shared the dinner talk that we're going to do. And
tell us about that because that's fun. That was a great example of how to get this ball rolling.
Yeah. So one of the questions last night was just like, hey, how do you get your whole team on board?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we're about to do this, right? So on November 21st, we're meeting. We're having our directors only, leaders only meeting, and this is our high level leaders. So there's only like 8 people in the room, and we're going to cast vision and make a plan for 2024. And then that Sunday afterwards, we're going to cater a meal for all of our middle managers. So this is our assistant managers, our shift managers, probably about 25, 30 people, and they will be required to attend this. So we're going to pay them to be at this meeting. And what we're going to do is we're going to serve them a high class meal. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be the servers, and we're going to serve them. And when the meal is done being served, we're then going to break them up into groups, where it's going to be some of our kitchen team, some of our hospitality team, some of our drive-through team, all in the same. And then we're going to break them up into groups and go, if your department was world class, what would it look like? What feeling would your guests experience? Because what we want to do is we want our guests to feel something when they experience our brand, when they experience our food, when they walk into our dining room. We want them to feel something. And when we boil it down, like me and my leaders, we're saying delight is the word that we're looking for. We want them to be delighted. We want them to be surprised and delighted. Like that's not something that you see at a quote unquote quick serve restaurant. And so we're wanting, and so we're going, okay, what does that look like after that meal?
So you're going to give them an experience first.
Yeah, we want them
have
to
a
feel
reference
something.
point,
Right. We want our team to feel something. Go, oh wow. We're not giving any context for that meeting, except for it's a vision meeting, a planning meeting. And so when they come in, they're going to be surprised and delighted that their leaders are serving them a nice catered meal. So it's kind of and then we're going into like, so you guys come up with how we delight people, how do we surprise them, how do we elevate our environment, and then we have to reverse engineer. When you come up with this idea of maybe collaboration between front of house and back of house, okay, what does that look like? What does that collaboration look like? And so as they start coming up with ideas, we're going to have to start asking some questions. So we also have to say, there is no wrong answers here. We want you to be engaged. We want you we want our guests to feel that you are a part of it, not just me, the leader.
It's interesting because vision, visionary, envisioning, all these words, they're so kind of nuanced, and everyone has their own experience around those. Maybe some have negative. It's like we were talking about the word boss and visionary and better words and all this stuff. But at some point, like for you and your leadership, you're talking about a philosophical motivation that you've had deeply embedded, a conviction from back when you were Medane and even starting maybe prior to Medane, the things you were doing. There was a leadership development piece in you. Yeah. That fire then caught fire now, and it's the same thing that's been working through. So there is this. It's not new for you. Yeah. But this idea of when the visionary. So it's the leader says, "I am visionary." Most entrepreneurs that start something, they are the visionary. Yeah. That's why it started. And the people who join at first are not. They're joining in on a vision. But you're made a shift, and it sounds like today what you're doing at Chick-fil-A with your team is you're moving from I am the visionary to we are visionary. Yeah. Almost as a value, which is an interesting, I don't know if that's true, but there's this level of I'm not just going to be the visionary top-down leader and you listen to my plans and my ideas, but you're trying to now create a spirit of visionary. Because this guy who's running with you, and I'm sure even this idea of we're not just going to teach it, but we're going to create an experience so people catch the feeling. Yeah. Right? So is that true? And if so, elaborate on that, because there is different work in how you lead, being the visionary and being we are visionary.
Yeah, that guy that we're referencing, he was one of the first people I hired at Medane. He worked with Isaiah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And he's been with me 10 years. Yeah. And he's always had an employee mindset for many, many years. And the more I've pulled him up into leadership and activated his leadership capacity and released him and allowed him, the more he's stepping into like a visionary, which some people think it's not attainable or reachable or teachable. And I'm watching it in him, like it's coming alive in him as something new that he didn't have previously, which is really cool. And then getting him to be the one that goes, this is where we want to go. And I'm like, that's been in my heart the whole time. I'm so glad that you're wanting to do it this year.